Before we start, I want to kindly thank Steve Gray and UK Rob M for buying us a cuppa since the last video. It's always appreciated. I was in cash converters looking through all the stolen goods people pretend were theirs when a man in there asked if I'd seen Sapphire. I said I'm not watching some shit Aussie musical film because my taste in films isn't that bad. He laughed and said no, I mean Sapphire from 1959. Sapphire is a British film released in 1959, not long after there were some race riots in the UK. Imagine that. The film is a crime drama about the death of a young woman, but not everything is as it seems. Is it worth a watch though? Let's find out. If you want, have a drink every time someone says the word coloured. Actually, don't. It won't end well for anyone. We need to bring this back at the start of films. Sadly, this isn't Carry On Camping. Maybe it's more Carry On Up the Jung. No, best not. I wonder who she is. Oh, that's Sapphire. After that rather cheerful music over the dead woman, the film opens up on Hampstead Heath and some kids losing their ball. I wouldn't go looking for it in those bushes there. You might find George Michael getting bummed. Nope, no gays in that bush, just a woman Sapphire who was killed at the start. We then meet Detective Hazard and his sidekick. I wonder if they'll jump to the same conclusion we would now in the same situation.
Half a dozen knife wounds round the heart. She died instantly.
What sort of knife?
Any sort, as long as it was sharp, pointed.
Come on, Hazard, who carries knives? Back at the police station, Hazard and sidekick are looking through her clothes and are quite shocked to find a red frilly dress.
Didn't quite go together, do they? These do.
Maybe she was a prostitute.
In my experience, an hysterical frightened boy stabs once, twice maybe, and then runs. But this monkey went on and on till he was exhausted.
Hazard knows. We then meet David, Sapphire's nerdy fiancé. He doesn't know she's dead yet. Or does he?
David! David!
Nothing quite like finding out your fiancé's dead in the middle of the street.
Mr. Harris, we won't keep you very long. I'm sorry, but we think you may be able to help us. Thank you, miss.
Who's she going to tell now? Well, she'll probably run inside the cafe and tell all her mates.
What is it?
That murdered girl on Hampstead Heath. It's Sapphire.
Sapphire? Hey, Anna, coffee, quick.
Sapphire? How ghastly. Police kept asking me questions about her. Who her friends were. I said us. Well, of course.
We were all her friends. What else did they ask you?
All about David, the scholarship and everything. If she'd had any boyfriends before him. I couldn't tell them. I've only known her since I took her to stay with me at my digs.
Where was she living before that?
At Dumpenell's Court. The landlady turned her out.
But why? Sapphire was such a sweetie.
Maybe she wasn't a sweetie after all with those mucky clothes.
We contacted Dr. Robbins in Birmingham. He's on his way to London now.
Oh. Did you and Sapphire have a quarrel on Friday night?
No.
Thank you. Sergeant, drive Mr. Harris home, will you?
Very good, sir.
Well, that was a rather easy police interview. Maybe he's in the clear after all.
Oh, Mr. Harris, what time did you say you got back from Cambridge?
About 11.
Thank you.
I think he might be lying about 11 o'clock. They best go and question the family back at his house. But not before a quick stop to Sapphire's house to find out what she's been hiding in her drawers. I mean, her chest of drawers.
This one's locked.
I'm sorry, I haven't the key.
Oh, I wish you wouldn't.
I never saw Sapphire wear anything like that.
In 2023, the police would be shocked if they didn't find clothes like that in someone's drawers. We then meet Sapphire's doctor brother. I'm sure he'll shed some light on the situation.
very good of you to come so quickly, sir.
How do you do?
Please sit down.
Thank you.
Hang on a minute. Sapphire was white and her brother is a... We was doctors and shit. What's going on?
Our father was a doctor, white. Our mother a singer, black as I am. You never know which way it's gonna go. Since Sapphire came to London, she learned to pass for white.
Ah, well that explains it. She's a half and half.
Consulting room, swinging her legs, laughing, twittering like a bird. Patience waiting, but on she went. I could have slapped her sometimes.
Standard behaviour.
That's the brother. Yes. I think I was right. Hate killed Sapphire. I think she died because she was coloured.
She was also pregnant.
I wonder if the film's now going to start moralising about people's perceptions of coloured people back in the 50s. I'm sure it will.
You didn't tell us you were the father of Sapphire's child.
You didn't ask me.
Fair enough.
What's been said?
They know about the baby, Dad.
Well, what of it? We knew. She came here to tell us on Saturday, just after lunch. My boy was going to marry her. I gave her my word he would.
They want to know what time I got in on Saturday night, Dad.
About 11.
Did you talk to anyone in Cambridge? Anyone might remember you? Where did you eat?
I took sandwiches.
He always does. We can't afford meals in cafes, you know.
David's equally suspicious dad backs up his 11 PM claims. Maybe he's responsible because he doesn't want, well, them in the family. That, of course, if they knew she was one of them.
Did you know that she was coloured?
We knew.
How long?
We knew. That's enough, isn't it?
Well, they don't seem too bothered.
How long had they known the girl was coloured?
What? Yes, she was, you know.
Oh, I shouldn't have thought they knew that at all, sir. He's very bigoted, Ted Harris. And very
Maybe
ambitious
not
for
then.
his son.
He's got
Oh,
them
very.
right in it. Meanwhile, we was doctors and shit has gone to see where his sister was killed.
Did David Harris kill her?
What makes you say that?
She was pregnant. I've seen the autopsy.
Yes, but there's no proof that he killed her. If he did, we'll get him, rest assured.
There is no assurance for me or my kind, Superintendent. I've been black for 38 years. I know. She may have looked white, but Sapphire was colored.
Your sister was murdered. We'll find out who killed her.
I'm sure that is your intention.
It is my intention. It's also my job.
If only the late 1950s audience could see through this shit. After that, we was doctors and shit go to see Sapphire's landlady. I wonder if she's got the memo about diversity.
I'm full.
I don't want a room. I've come to thank you for looking after my sister.
You've got the wrong address. I take only white students.
My name is Robbins. How much did Sapphire owe you?
Her rent was paid up.
May I come tomorrow and pick up Sapphire's things?
The police have sealed her room. You must ask them.
I guess she hasn't.
What is it, Mrs. Thompson?
That girl you brought here, did you know she was coloured?
What girl?
Sapphire.
Yes. Yes, I did.
When did she tell you?
Well, she didn't. A friend told me.
This house is my living. If it got round that I took coloured students, certain white people wouldn't allow their children to stay here.
Well, I think it's a damn silly prejudice.
I'm not saying it isn't, but I can't afford to have my rooms empty. To think that she could be so sly.
It's people like you who made her sly. Well, you jolly well got another room empty now.
Patsy,
Yes?
you took Sapphire home to Guildford, didn't you?
Yes.
Did you tell your father and mother she was coloured?
No.
Well then, don't be so quick to call me prejudiced.
You're a bigot. No, you're a bigot. Ah, shut the fucking door and lock it.
Thank you. Red taffeta under a tweed skirt.
Yes. That's the black under the white, all right.
Oh, come off it, Phil. Yes?
I'm beginning to think the sidekick is one of us. Well, everyone was one of us back then.
What do you make of that?
I wouldn't know what to make of it, sir.
Oh, come, you're a woman. Now, where do you suppose a thing like that could be bought?
I wouldn't know, sir.
No.
Try Babette's, Shaftesbury Avenue.
And how would you know?
Just take my word for it.
Dirty sod.
For this morning. The autopsy, they don't mention David.
Won't stop them guessing.
Oh, David. Whatever made you get mixed up with a coloured girl?
I didn't know.
When did you know?
Last week. By then I didn't care.
How very progressive of you, David.
It gives you a motive, that's what it matters.
It gives us all a motive. We none of us knew till the weekend, did we?
No.
I'll never forget her standing here Saturday. And when Dad said he'd see her brother and tell him that Davy would stand by her, she laughed and said, "He'll be a shock to you. He's as black as a pot."
Shut up, Billy.
And she laughed some more and said, "Don't look like that. David doesn't care."
My money's still on the dad.
Except once.
Well,
But she had a young fellow with her then.
tall, slim boy, fair.
No, I remember being very surprised. She was such a dainty kid. And he was a great big coloured chap.
Coloured.
Even Officer Lesbian doesn't look impressed.
Coloured chap, she said.
Maybe she was killed by one of her own. I mean, that is more than likely.
Did she tell you she was coloured?
No, she didn't mention it.
No, I bet she didn't. But you can always tell, can't you?
No, Inspector, as a matter of fact, you can't.
What? Oh, I can tell him a mile away.
Oh, I don't know, Inspector. Would you say you were a policeman?
What?
Well, you haven't got very big feet, have you? Don't they say you can always tell a policeman a mile off by the size of his feet?
Oh, that's bloody silly.
Yes, isn't it?
It gets even worse. Even Dr. Progressive here is buying into it all. Anyway, let's find another racist old woman.
Yes, I remember Sapphire Robbins.
What sort of a girl was she?
Nice enough girl, considering she was coloured.
Oh, you knew then?
I guessed. You can always tell. Too eager to please, laugh too much, noisy with a gramophone.
She was correct about everything other than easy to please. I hate it when they play their gramophones out loud on the bus.
Some big coloured bloke started calling for her. Black as your hat he was. Well, I run a White House. You never can tell when the others are going to kick. All depends upon how much hate she stirred up.
Hate?
I dare say she was passing for white.
So?
Would you be pleased with a brass sovereign, Superintendent?
That's quite a good analogy and one we should use more. Anyway, off to see her old friend who makes the NHS what it is.
Tell me, why did you stop seeing Sapphire?
She stopped seeing me. I'm rather distinctive, you know.
Time to interview another one of the usual suspects.
I do. That ruled you out anyway.
The question of marriage between Sapphire and myself could never have arisen.
How's that?
My father would never have permitted it.
Well, why not? Sapphire came from a good home. Her brother's a doctor.
She was part white. Is that all?
Good to see his father brought him up properly. Does that rule him out as a suspect though, or is it still David? The same David who's acting suspiciously at the crime scene. Watch out for the copper watching you. Maybe he's not a copper and he's just a flasher.
He pushed it down the drain, sir. It was quite deliberate, so I thought I'd best find out what it was.
Oh, it's a piece of wood.
This is honestly more boring than an episode of Holby City.
What happened on Saturday night?
Mum, never ask what happened on Saturday.
Definitely the killer.
Davy. You didn't meet Sapphire on Saturday, did you? Answer me, Davy. Did you?
They're the twins.
Answer me, Davy.
That's it, run off. That'll make you look innocent, David.
Dad was at home. That's right. Davy wasn't. No, he didn't get in till 11. Did you see him? No, I was in bed, but Dad was up. And we've only got Dad's word that he came in when he said he did.
Maybe it was the dad and David. I honestly can't keep up. I also don't really care by this point.
I don't want any supper, Mum. I'm going out.
Where are you going, son?
I'm going for a walk, Mum.
Oh, what a surprise, he's disappearing again as things get uncomfortable. It's definitely him. Meanwhile, Detective Hazard and Sidekick are off to the International Club. I wonder how international it is. Well, it is fairly international. It's the kind of place we wouldn't be seen dead in. It's also the kind of place you wouldn't see any of these people in now.
Here regularly, then suddenly, she never came again.
Why was that?
Sapphire found she could pass for white. I was there the day it happened.
Tell me.
We had just finished coffee. I went to pay the bill. A white lady came in, took one look at my black mug and said, "Oh, I see they've let the jungle in." She said this to Sapphire, you see, like they were the same. Sapphire left before I got my change. When I went outside, she'd gone. Silly little peasant.
Silly little peasant, I can't imagine why she didn't want to hang around with you. They then go to another club to find Black Johnny.
Night. Talking to me, sir? Yes. Lots of Johnny here tonight, sir. Johnny Fingers. Johnny Hot Feet. Johnny Rags. And Johnny Tiger over there.
Johnny Handgun and Johnny Drug Dealer are notably absent.
Blow, Johnny. And don't come back. You're wearing too much trouble.
Johnny's running away. It must have been him. The police are in pursuit.
I'm in trouble. The police. I got to hide up. We have never been in trouble with the law and don't care to be.
Go on away with your boys. You and your kind that get us respectable folk a bad name.
Trash.
Maybe you'll have more luck in a cafe where a PA London meeting's happening.
The police! On my tail!
Get out, nigger. We got copper trouble too, but we ain't got your sort of woman trouble. Now get out and stay out. Dirty black.
Eventually, Johnny gets caught. He should have just hidden in the alleyway and kept his eyes and mouth shut.
Where were you on Saturday night, Johnny?
On the streets!
With Sapphire?
No, boss, no!
Which street, Johnny?
Down the West End!
Who was with you?
No one! I was on my path!
Johnny all alone, eh? The truth, Johnny, come on, let's have the truth. Where were you Saturday night? Where were you Saturday night? Answer!
I think we need a summary on how it's getting on.
These spades are a load of trouble. I reckon we should send them back where they came from. We wouldn't have half this bother if they weren't here.
Well, I suppose you're right. Just the same as you wouldn't have old ladies being covered by hooligans if there weren't any old ladies. So what do? Get rid of the hooligans or the people they bash? Look, Phil, given the right atmosphere, you can organize riots against anyone. Jews, Catholics, Negroes, Irish, even policemen with big feet.
It's also tiresome. Fresh from running away whenever his mum asks him a question, David appears back at the police station.
Is this the boy you gave a lift to just outside Cambridge on Saturday?
Yes. What time did you put him down?
I dropped him at the post office. Around 6 o'clock.
Oh dear, that's not 11 o'clock. David or his dad are lying.
11 o'clock.
You heard what the man said.
I got back to town at 6. I didn't get home till 11.
And what did you do in between?
Walked about. Then I went to the pictures.
Well, why didn't you say this before?
I didn't want my father to know. He worries if I go to the pictures too often in term time, thinks it strains my eyes.
Ah, so it's the French kind of films you went to see.
How about this? Why were you so anxious to get rid of this?
I didn't. I never saw it before.
I'm told it's part of a child's doll. A wooden doll. A leg, possibly. Is that what you think it is?
Well, I don't think it's anything. Just a piece of wood I was doodling with.
You admit picking it up, then?
Yes.
You just said you didn't.
And this is why you no comment in police interviews. This family sing like canaries.
Did Sapphire often go to your house?
Yes.
And I suppose, really, you were all as much to blame as David.
What do you mean?
Well, you shouldn't have made her so welcome if you didn't want him involved with the colored girl.
We didn't know she was colored. Not until...
Not until when, Mrs. Farr? Not until Saturday, was it? The day she was killed.
My father didn't do it, I swear, Superintendent. You can search the house from top to bottom. You'll not find a speck of blood or a trace of Sapphire.
Thank you, Mrs. Farr.
He never talked to me like that in his life.
Perhaps there's a side to the boy you've never seen, Mr. Harris.
I know my own son. He didn't kill Sapphire. I know he didn't.
Because it was you?
Is this yours, Johnny?
No, boss. No.
Then what was it doing in your mattress on your bed?
Someone put it there. He put it there.
What?
All right. The blood found on this knife, on your shirt, matches Sapphire's blood. And
Obviously, they use the old police trickery of lying and pretending they have evidence they don't, because it's not Sapphire's blood. It's the blood of another black man he had a fight with and stabbed, and they'll go and see him in a minute.
This man's the law. Now, no ignorant, foolish talk, mind.
All right,
Yes.
sir.
Wise words, Desmond.
I got no out for Johnny Fiddle. You go. Hang him.
After a completely pointless and unproductive interview with Desmond and the gang, they discover what was used to take Sapphire to Hampstead Heath and dump her body. And whose house is it in? You guessed it. At last we reach the end of the film where we find out who done it. It's definitely the dad.
Don't know that I can answer that. I mean, we never really discussed it.
I've told you over and over again, yes. But supposing your father were lying and didn't want you to marry her? I didn't care. But you cared about your scholarship, didn't you?
Turns out the police haven't got a fucking clue and they're just going to let the family argue until one gives in.
You're going to send me away, but you hated her so much that you finally...
Get him out! Don't want his hands on my kids' toys. Don't want him near my kids. Don't want his dirty hands on my children. Tearing up my family, they're mine.
It was the sister all along, the crafty cunt.
You really hate colored people, don't you? You really hate them. And with Sapphire, you couldn't control yourself. And that's why you killed her.
Keep his scholarship. She laughed in my face and said David didn't care what colour the baby was or what colour she was. He wanted her, and I'd forgotten what that was like. I'd forgotten what it was like to be wanted.
So it wasn't a crime of hate after all. She was just jealous because no one loves her. And then she gets calmly led out of the house as the family just stare on, silent. Probably all going to have a cup of tea afterwards because that's how we deal with things like this.
I'm sorry, Dad.
I know, son. You thought I killed her. I don't blame you.
We all thought you both had a hand in it, to be fair.
No. But then I see all kinds of sickness in my practice, Superintendent. I've never yet seen the kind you can cure in a day.
We was doctors and shit, ending the film by saying racism can't be cured in a day. The end. So, is the film worth a watch? No. As a crime film, it's incredibly boring and slow, and being 1959 is no excuse for that, and neither is it being a British crime film either. The film's just endless knocking on doors and talking to policemen through car windows, and that silly bastard David running off at the end of every scene. While the person responsible for the crime was a surprise, by the time you get to that point, you're either asleep or you just don't care. But, as you've gathered, this film's not made to entertain, and it didn't win the Best Picture BAFTA because of greatness. In the 1950s, people were far more honest about what they liked and didn't like around them, and you have the potential trouble that can be caused. People are the same now, only they're not allowed to say, and those that don't see colour are either lying or falling for the bullshit. From films like this, and successive TV programmes that have fed them. This film wouldn't look out of place now on BBC One or ITV, the only difference being the detectives wouldn't be white, and the old ladies answering the doors would have been nicked for hate speech. Detective Hazard is the message, and his sidekick is us, the audience. The hope is clearly that by the end of the film, all the so-called bigoted viewers would be on the side of Hazard and we were doctors and shit, and it's undoubtable that people fell into that trap. Of course, no one should be killed because they're a different colour, and even the film managed to fuck that up by not even making it about Sapphire being killed because she's half-caste, but because the sister was jealous of her happiness. So the film backed out at the last minute, making the entire racist subplot pointless, but obviously the main focus. Anyway, don't watch it, and until next time, ta-ta for now. And remember, stay away from hormonal jealous sisters, which is the key message of this film. If you enjoyed this video or thought it's like less shit than the others, you can always buy us a Cuppa on Ko-fi. The link is in the description below, and thank you in advance if you do.